So friends, today we are taking up fire loss of profit policy. What we call it in short is FLOP insurance. This is not a new policy, but of course, very important policy of non-motor segment. So while discussing I would like to know whether any of you have sold this policy so far, FLOP insurance policy. I hope most of you have already sold it, because this is one of the sections of most of the package policies. So maybe by default many of the customers have selected this section in the package policies as well. But individually also this policy is available for sale. So let us see what this policy is. Are you able to see it? Is this visible to all?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the first point of this policy is, the most important one is, this policy cannot be sold alone. Means this is a precondition that there has to be a material damage policy in existence. Then only this policy can be given, or it can be clubbed together along with the fire policy. Fire policy may be anyone which is covering the fire risk. For example, SBSU, SBLU, SFSP, whatever it is. Because that policy is intended to protect the material damage losses. So along with fire policy only this policy can be given. That is why this is called fire loss of profit policy. And the second precondition is, if claim is paid under the fire policy, if claim is paid under the fire policy, then only the claim will trigger under the FLOP policy. Means, if the claim is repudiated for any reason by the fire policy, FLOP policy will also not pay the claim. For that reason, this is very clear that the loss must have been caused by any of the insured perils of the fire policy, or the loss must have been admitted under the fire policy, and this is settled. Settled in the sense admitted, the liability is admitted. Then only the FLOP claim will be admitted. Now the another important feature of this policy is, in the market this policy is known by three different names. What these three different names are? Business interruption insurance, consequential loss insurance, and loss of profit insurance. So if it is given along with the fire policy, this is called fire loss of profit policy. If it is given with the machineries, this is called machinery loss of profit policy. So don't get confused over the names of the policy. These are the synonyms, and all these three names are popular in the market. Now there are many ways to sell this policy. For example, if you are giving a IAR policy to any corporate, IAR means industrial all risk policy, to any corporate over 50 crores risk. In that policy, this section is inbuilt. That means there is no choice, that is automatically covered. Secondly, if you are giving any fire policy to any factory or a small medium enterprises or any commercial institution, in that case, since material damage policy is already there, fire policy, you can give another FLOP policy by filling up a separate proposal form. Third method is the policies which are package policies but doesn't have the FLOP section. So when you are giving the package policy to any of the educational institution, medical institution, hotel and restaurants, and if the policy like business protector policy doesn't have the FLOP section, in that case you can separately give the FLOP because the fire risk is already covered under the business protector policy. You only have to fill up a separate proposal form for FLOP. And the most convenient or easiest method is when you are giving a package policy to any of your customers, maybe shopkeeper, educational institution, hotel and restaurant, if you are giving these separate package policies to these institutions, these all policies are having FLOP section as inbuilt section of the policy. Maybe 14 sections are there or 15 sections are there, one of them is FLOP section. So all these ways can be adopted to sell the FLOP policy wherever the requirement is, and according to the requirement of that institution, the policy can be given by any of these four methods. Now when you are giving this policy to shopkeepers, so shopkeeper is a very small segment financially, volume wise. Number wise this is the highest. So shopkeeper is a very small segment. There are certain restrictions to give this policy. In the shopkeeper policy itself, the FLOP section is there. But the section provides that the sum insured will not exceed 25% of the fire sum insured. Indemnity period will not exceed 3 months. Premium is fixed as 360 rupees per lakh. And minimum premium is 500 rupees plus GST. I repeat all the four conditions. In shopkeeper, when we are giving this FLOP section to any of the shopkeepers or the showroom owners, sum insured will not exceed 25% of the fire sum insured. Indemnity period will not exceed 3 months. Premium chargeable is 360 rupees per lakh plus GST. And the minimum premium is rupees 500 plus GST. This is only for the shopkeepers. When you are giving this policy to any other institution, the conditions are different. So what does FLOP means? What does it covers? This is important to understand. A fire loss of profit policy covers the financial losses of the risk due to interruption in business, following a loss of damage to insured property covered under material damage policy or what we call fire policy. That means this policy covered only the financial losses, that is loss of profit. But this loss must be covered by any of the insured parent of the fire policy. In the fire policy, there is block-wise separate sum insured. Say for example, building, plant and machinery, stocks, furniture, fixtures and fittings. They all have the separate sum insured block-wise. So when you are giving FLOP section, the purpose of this FLOP policy is to protect the insured against the loss of income or loss of profit. Means this policy will pay only for the loss of income or loss of profit and for nothing. If at all there is a loss to the building, to the plant and machinery, to the stock or to the furniture fixtures, this policy will pay zero amount. Because this is not for that purpose. that entire material damage risk is covered under the fire policy. That is the reason this policy is given together with fire policy, and if there is no fire policy, this policy cannot be given standalone. Now, who can take this policy? Proposer must have fire policy with us, and that fire policy should be in force. Means, fire policy can be taken before FLOP or can be taken simultaneously, but fire policy has to be taken. It is always better if the policy period is coinciding of both the policies. Because if the fire policy has expired and FLOP policy is continuing, still the loss is not payable. And if the fire policy is continuing and FLOP has expired, still the FLOP payment is not payable. So it is always better that the policy period of both the policies run together. But if at all there is already a fire policy, FLOP policy can be given. Second condition is proposer's business must continue. Means this FLOP policy cannot be given if the proposer, that commercial institution, has already closed the business. If the business is closed, there is no profit, no income, then what risk is covered under the FLOP policy? So for any closed unit, FLOP policy cannot be given. Third, proposer must be earning income or profit. If that unit is already running into the losses, maybe for last few years, this policy is not required. Because the business is already running into the losses. This is to protect the income or the profit. There is no income, no profit. So for such institutions, this policy cannot be given. All these three conditions are mandatory. There has to be a fire policy in existence. If it is not there, it can be taken simultaneously. Point number one. Point number two, proposer's business must continue. It should have not been shut down, closed, or discontinued. Third, proposer must be earning income or the profit. Then only this policy can be given. All three conditions are must. Now, by this image, you can understand what this policy will cover. Net profit or net loss are two terminologies of accounts which shows that if you want to show net profit or if you are showing in your books net profit, it means your gross profit is higher than the fixed cost and standing charges. The remaining amount is called net profit. Means gross profit is equal to standing charges plus net profit. In other words, you can say, if the fixed cost or standing charges are more than gross profit, then there is a net loss instead of the net profit. Because the cost and standing charges are higher than the gross profit. You have earned only 60 rupees, but you have spent on the costs 60 rupees plus 20 rupees on standing charges. It means your cost is 80 rupees. Your gross profit is only 60 rupees. You have earned the net loss, not the net profit. So this accounting terminology will clarify what actually this policy is covering. Because there is a difference between the fire policy and FLOP policy. This fire policy is covering the material damage risk that provides cover against the physical loss or damage to the assets, but does not cover the consequential losses. Physical losses to the assets. Asset could be building, plant and machinery, furniture, fixtures. losses to them called material damage. But in a FLOP policy, the policy covers loss of gross profit following operation of the insured peril. And insured perils are only those perils which are insured under the fire policy. Secondly, increased cost of working. If the cost has increased, that will also be covered as a part of the loss of income. So basically, fire policy and FLOP policy both are different, but they are given together. The purpose of giving together means fire policy will cover the material damage risk and FLOP policy will cover the income or profit risk. Fire policy will cover the risk of the building, property, machineries, stocks. FLOP policy will cover the risk of income or profit only. So that is the basic difference. But the sequence of this loss can be understood by this sketch. This is a flow chart. So the flow of events saying, first there is a material damage policy, that is fire policy. And in that policy there is an indemnifiable loss. Indemnifiable loss means the loss caused by the insured peril. Then only the policy will indemnify the loss. Thereafter, because the loss is there due to the insured peril, there must be interruption in the production process. Interruption in the production process, interruption in the sale process, interruption in the continuity of that business. Because there is a loss. And that interruption will further result into the reduction in sales turnover. Maybe this is a manufacturing unit, this is a sales unit, this is a service providing unit. If the interruption is there, the reduction in sale turnover would definitely be there. And because of that reduction in sales turnover, the ultimate result would be there is a loss of gross profit, loss of net profit. So the sequence continues as it is. It starts from the material damage policy, where the indemnifiable loss is there. Indemnifiable loss means loss caused by the insured perils. Because of that loss, there would be interruption in the production process, and because of that interruption, a reduction in sales turnover would be there, reduction in service turnover would be there, and that reduction would ultimately result into the loss of gross profit. Under all the circumstances of all the businesses, the same situation continues. This is the flow of events. Now, when you are giving this policy, you have to see certain specific things. First, what would be the sum insured of the policy? Sum insured means the policy, FLOP policy, will represent annual anticipated gross profit, duly adjusted as per the trend of business. So what we are covering is annual anticipated gross profit. Anticipated words we are using because this may be higher than the previous year's gross profit, or this may be lesser than the previous year's gross profit. Not necessarily the previous year's or previous 3 years gross profit should be insured. It all depends upon the situation of that unit, whether it is going to increase their business, it is going to reduce their business, it is going to expand the branches, it is going to increase the counters, the centers, the offices. It all depends upon their business strategy. So whatever anticipated gross profit is there, that will be given by the proposer himself. Secondly, there are 3 different periods. First one is policy period. As usual, the policy is annual policy and it will continue for all 12 months. For example, policy starts from 1st January 23, that will end on 31st December 23. So this is simple policy period as usual, which is applicable to other policies also. What is new is indemnity period. What is this indemnity period? This is new because it represents the insured's estimation of the maximum period required for normal business operations to be recovered following a loss. Means if there is a loss or damage, in how much time, maybe in months or years, the business will be restored to the previous position. It should be mentioned in the months like 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 1 year, 1.5 years, 2 years, 3 years. In cases of shops only this is restricted to 3 months, but in otherwise all the cases this could be 3 months to 3 years. So this indemnity period is selected by the insured himself, because he is the right man to decide how much time his business will take to restart. Say suppose a cement factory is damaged by the flood. Machineries are damaged, stocks are damaged, building is damaged, furniture fixtures is damaged. Now he is the better person to know or to say how much time it will take to restart. Say suppose he says minimum 8 months are required. So he has the choice to select the 8th month or 9th month or 12th month as per his choice, and which he has to select in the proposal form. That would be the indemnity period. Means this option has to be exercised by the insured, and he will be the right person, he is the right person to select the indemnity period according to the nature of his business. Third and important period is interruption period. Before that, I show you how the indemnity period is function. Say for example, policy is taken from January 1 to 31st December. This is policy period. Inception of date is January 1, expiry date is 31st December. Now for example, on March 1st, there is a loss due to flood. March 1st. From March 1st to February 15, it took time to come back to full stream. It means it has taken 15 months. March to February 15. So almost 15 months it will take. It could be 3 months also, it could be 8 months also, it could be 15 months also. So that 15-month period is interruption period. But if the insured has selected the indemnity period as 9 months, in that case 9 months would be the indemnity period. That means indemnity period could be longer, indemnity period could be longer. It depends upon the circumstances. How? Interruption period means actual period of interruption when the peril has caused, that is starting from the date of loss till the date normal operation has been restored. Suppose flood is there on the March 1. It has damaged the entire unit and it took 15 months to restart. It means the interruption period is 15 months. But it can be more or it can be less than the chosen indemnity period. Suppose the insured has selected only period of indemnity as 9 months. So the interruption period is higher. But the insurer's liability is restricted to lower of the two. Lower of the two means here in this case, interruption period is 15 months and indemnity period is 9 months. So which one is lower? 9 months. The insurance company will pay the loss of profit of 9 months only. The interruption period you can see further. It is the period which starts from the date of loss and ends when the business achieves the same production. When it was prior to a loss at insured premises, just see, production continues, but on this date there is a loss. This is indemnity period, this one. But the business has restarted and recovered in a shorter period than an indemnity period. In that case, insurance company will pay for the interruption period because that is shorter. So the liability of insurance company is restricted to the lower of the two. If the interruption period is short, insurance company will pay for the interruption period. If the indemnity period is short, insurance company will pay for the indemnity period. Lowest of the two. Now, while settling the claim, there are two kinds of expenses which the insurance company will consider while settling the claim for every unit. These are first standing expenses, standing charges, what you call them. These are the charges or fixed expenses which continues to occur irrespective of the production level. Means suppose the flood has damaged the cement factory, production has closed, but still these expenses will continue. These expenses will not stop because they are standing charges. Say for example, insurance premium, rent of building, salary of employee, dividend, interest on loan, administrative cost, vehicle rent. Production is there or not, these expenses will continue as it is. So they are considered at the time of payment of loss. Another kind of expenses are variable expenses. These are the expenses which vary with the production level. They may stop. No cost incurred when no production is there. Say for example, the flood has damaged the cement plant. Now cement plant is closed for repair work or restoration work. So for that period, they don't have to incur the cost of raw material, freight inward, electricity charges, labor cost, because the production is not there. So these are the variable expenses which will stop automatically according to the production. If there is no production, there will be no variable expenses. But if there is no production, still the standing charges or fixed expenses will continue. Because the labor charges are stopped, but employee charges are continuing. Maybe managers or seniors. Rent of building is continuing, dividend is continuing, interest on loan is continuing, insurance premium is continuing, administrative cost is continuing. So the difference between the standing charges and the variable charges. Now the gross profit can be determined by any of the methods which the accounting system is arrived, because units are maintaining their accounts in various patterns now. But ultimately they are coming to the gross profit or turnover by calculating that the turnover and opening stocks are compared. Say for example, turnover is 1 lakh, opening stock is 20,000. Closing stock is 20,000. So the turnover is 10,20,000. But opening stock means opening stock was 20,000, purchase was 3,50,000, total it was 3,70,000. So in this case, turnover minus opening stock will be the gross profit, that is 6,50,000. If we work out it on the rate terms, rate of gross profit, this will be 65% of it. Because the settlement of claim will be on the basis of the rate of gross profit. Or you can say in image that it is the amount by which the sales turnover exceeds the manufacturing cost. Sales turnover minus manufacturing cost is equal to gross profit. I repeat, total sales turnover minus manufacturing cost is equal to gross profit. So the difference amount is gross profit. As long as there is gross profit, FLP will pay nothing. If it is turning to the gross loss or net loss, in that case, FLP will pay the losses. So under the FLP policy, gross profit is insured, and gross profit includes standing charges, net profit, and increase in cost of working. These are the components of the gross profit. Here, gross profit terminology is very important. Ultimately, the FLP policy is based on the accounts, books of the accounts. Say for example, my cement plant is there and I am saying flood has caused me a loss and it has taken 6 months to recover, and I am earning 2 lakh rupees per month from the cement plant, so I have lost 12 lakh rupees in 6 months. Pay me the 12 lakh rupees as per the loss caused and insured under the FLP policy. Of course, insurance company will pay. But what you are saying is a verbal communication. Insurance company will check your documentary evidence whether you are really earning the 2 lakh rupees per month or not. And to check that system, your accounting books are required. Accounting books will speak what is your gross profit, what are the standing charges, what is the net profit, what is the increased cost of working, how you have suffered the losses, what was the total turnover, what is the total gross profit, what is the net gross profit. These things will be there in the books of accounts. So while settling the claim under the FLP policy, books of accounts are required. If the firm is not able to put up the books of accounts, claim cannot be settled in fact. Verbal communication doesn't mean you have really suffered the losses. This has to be proved. And for proving, books or documentary evidence is required. Now, suppose the indemnity period is selected by the insured for more than 12 months. Because he knows his business is typically it may take 18 months or 2 years to restart if there is a loss by earthquake or by flood or by fire. So the insured has selected 1.5 years as indemnity period, means 18 months. What will happen? For policies with 12 months indemnity period or less than 12 months, sum insured would be the annual gross profit. But in case policies with indemnity period more than 12 months, it could be 18 months, it could be 24 months, it could be 36 months. Sum insured to be increased proportionately. For example, 18 months, 1.5 times, 24 months, 2 times, 30 months, 2.5 times, and so on. Because the indemnity period is the period for which the insurance company is liable to pay the losses, which is already selected by the insured. In any case, if the interruption period is less than the indemnity period, the insurance company will pay the losses for the interruption period. But if the interruption period is longer than the indemnity period, in that case the liability is restricted to indemnity period. So here, the sum insured would increase automatically according to the indemnity period selected by the insured. And that could be 18 months, 24 months, 30 months, 36 months, as per the choice of the insured. It will make no impact, no difference if the sum insured if the indemnity period is 12 months or less than 12 months. So the premium calculation would be automatically on the same pattern if it is doubled or if it is 2.5 times or if it is 3 times. Now what perils are covered under the FRP policy? Because this is a separate policy, this is not a fire policy, but it is given along with the fire policy. But the precondition is if the fire policy is paying the claim, then only the FLOP policy will pay the claim. That means all perils covered under the fire policy or material damage policy are also insured under the FLOP policy. FLOP policy will trigger only if the claim is payable under the fire policy. So the coverage is same. Even the add-on covers covered under the fire policy are also covered under the FLOP policy. If the loss is caused by any add-on risk, still the FLOP policy will pay the claim. So all perils covered under the material damage policy, that is fire policy, the same are covered under the FLOP policy also. Now you know what 14 perils are covered under the fire policy. I don't need to repeat. Why? Because if the policy is a standard fire and special peril policy, in that case 12 perils are insured. If the policy is SBSU or SBLU, in that case 40 perils are insured. So all those perils which are insured along with the fire policy are covered under the FLOP policy, including add-on covers. Now, the standard fire and special peril policy has got a longer list of add-on covers than the perils. Because the fire perils insured under the standard fire and special peril policy are only 12. But add-on covers provided with the standard fire and special peril policy are 15. So because the focus right now is on the Sukshma Udyam or Laghu Udyam only, so you people have not taken care that what are the add-on covers of standard fire and special peril policy, because that is now applicable only for the sum insured over the 50 crore rupees. And among your clients, there are very few clients who are opting for the standard fire and special peril policy or the IR policy. But for the sake of knowledge, you must know what these add-on covers are, because in the standard fire and special peril policies, deterioration of stock and cold storage, forest fire, impact damage, spontaneous combustion, these are separate risks. In SBSU or SBLU, forest fire has been merged, jungle fire has been merged, impact damage has been merged. Spontaneous combustion is included in the fire definition of fire. Earthquake is included in the fire. Terrorism is included. Removal of debris and architects limits is increased. Loss of rent clause is included. Startup expenses are included. But here in the standard fire and special peril policy, these are add-on covers. Extra premium is charged. Maybe earthquake or terrorism or removal of debris or loss of rent or additional expenses for rent or startup expenses. Even certain other are there like leakage and contamination cover, temporary removal of stock and spoilage, material damage cover is there, omission to insure additional restrictions is there. So they are still add-on covers along with the standard fire and special peril policy. Now, when you are giving a FLOP policy, you need certain different kind of detail in the proposal form. Different kind of detail means this is not related to any other material damage policy. Say for example, the detail of fire policy is required, basis of accounting, what the firm is adopting, list of standing charges, indemnity period selected by the insured, gross profit of previous years, turnover of previous years, whether unit is continuous or non-continuous, and other covers if required. These details are required to underwrite or generate the quotations for fire loss of policy. Means quotations are generated on the basis of these details which are related to the FLOP policy alone. Fire policy needs certain other details which are required related to the properties like building, machinery, furniture, pictures and stocks. But here the detail of fire policy itself is required in total, plus accounting detail, plus standing charges detail, plus indemnity period, plus gross profit and turnovers. So here the detail required is different to the fire policy. Now for a FLOP policy, it does not cover the loss of first 7 days. This is called the excess. Here in this policy, the compulsory excess is not in terms of amount. It is known as time excess. Time excess. And that is minimum time excess is 7 days. So intention of excess is to avoid small losses and to take some share of loss in major claims beyond 7 days. Because the losses paid are for the periods, maybe for the indemnity period or the interruption period, whichever is lower. So from that period, the 7 days loss will be deducted. And for the rest of the days which are payable, the loss will be paid. So any restrictions on reconstruction or operation imposed by any public authority is excluded from the policy. The lack of sufficient capital or funds with the insured for timely restoration or replacement of property lost, destroyed or damaged is again excluded from the policy. Loss of business due to causes such as suspension or lapse or cancellation of a license is not payable. Wireless loss is not payable. Electronic installations like computer and data processing equipment is also excluded. Damage resulting from deliberate losses, deliberate intentions is not paid, and mechanical or electrical breakdowns are not paid. But the FLOP policy also have few add-on covers in addition to the fire add-on covers. If the insured want, he can select add-on covers along with the FLOP policy also. And these add-on covers are accidental failure of public electricity or gas or water supply. Because if there is a failure, the indemnity period may continue for a longer time. Say suppose indemnity period selected is 6 months, but for 2 months water supply is not there. So the insured may say, provide me the indemnity period of 8 months, but that cannot be changed thereafter, after the claims. So to cover such a risk, add-on cover can be taken initially. Secondly, damage to customers' premises due to perils covered under fire policy. Customers' premises and suppliers' premises, these are two different add-on covers, and these are available only with the FLOP policy. Because at times the business depends upon the customer's premises and supplier's premises. And if there is losses in these premises, the business of the insured may also suffer. So that extension can also be taken. Otherwise, the insured doesn't have any insurable interest in the customer's premises or supplier's premises. But they are the part of their manufacturing unit. I give you an example, interesting example. Say for example, I have a motorcycle manufacturing company, say Bajaj. Now the entire assembly of the bike is manufactured at my unit except the headlight assembly. For headlight assembly, I have given the tender to the third party supplier, to a vendor who is supplying me the headlight assembly in the name of Bajaj. And his premises is just near to my manufacturing unit. So suppose 1000 bikes are manufactured in 1 month in my manufacturing units. That vendor is also supplying me 1000 headlight assemblies in the same month. Then only my bike is complete. Now, unfortunately, there is a fire in his premises. So, headlight assemblies cannot be manufactured. It means this is directly resulting into my business. And my assembling of the entire bike cannot be completed unless the headlight assembly is there. So my interest is involved in that premises, though I am not the owner. That is the reason I can take the add-on cover for this purpose. Similar is the case with the customer's premises also. But the most important add-on cover is auditor's fee, because the FLOP losses are settled by the chartered accountants. They need the books of accounts, details, accounting details of stock, sales, turnover, gross profit, standing charges, variable charges, everything. So the insured had to get the documents completed. And for that he has to pay the very high fees to the auditors or to the accountants or to the munis. This add-on cover can also be taken. Because here in this policy this is important, this is related. Now when you are giving a FLOP policy, you must know that policy is for 1 year only. But against the requirement, it can be given for shorter period also. Say suppose the fire policy of the customer is expiring in the next 6 months. You can give a FLOP policy for 6 months only. So both the policies run together and on expiry both policies are renewed. FLOP policy covers the loss of gross profit only in case of any accident because of the fire perils. And here the deductible is time excess, that is for 7 days. So 7 days deduction would be there out of the net payable loss. Here it is important that the FLOP policy cannot be given to those customers to whom fire policy cannot be given. There could be a decline list of the fire policy also. Say for example, fire policy is not given to the mobile shops, cracker shops, plastic manufacturing units, standalone warehouses, shops dealing in hazardous goods. So obviously when the fire policy cannot be given to these customers, you cannot give the FLOP policy also. So when the claim is there, when the loss is there, not necessarily the income tax return is required or GST return is required. Books of accounts are required. I give an interesting example. Say suppose a unit have the gross profit of 20 lakh rupees. And this is a engineering workshop. That workshop has already taken the earthquake and terrorism cover because the policy is for 20 lakh. Policy may be standard fire and special fire policy over 50 crore. So the earthquake and terrorism are taken. Gross profit is 20. Indemnity period they are selected for 3 months only. earthquake zone is third. So the rates applied by the underwriter according to the earthquake zones. So how the rate is applied? Say suppose rate is 1.08. So that will be multiplied with the 20 lakhs plus GST. This way the claim can be given. Now see the example of claim. So for example, to a different unit, the gross profit is 30 lakh. Indemnity period is 3 months. Perils covered are earthquake, STFI and all that. Cause of loss is flood. Interruption period is 8 weeks. Under insurance is there. Now here we have to compare interruption period and indemnity period. 8 week means 2 months or less than 2 months only. While the indemnity period is 3 months. So the policy says whichever is lower. It means the loss is payable for 8 weeks only. Now the insurance company is settling the claim for 8 weeks. In that case, compulsory access, that is time access of 1 week is there. So that 1 week's access will be deducted. Compulsory access of 1 week will be deducted. So it means the loss is payable for 7 weeks. So suppose 30 lakh is the gross profit of that firm. If it is worked out in weekly terms of the year, so 52 weeks are there in a year. In a year, 52 weeks are there. 52 dividing 30 lakhs means per week 57,962.3 is payable. If we are multiplying this amount with 7 weeks, the loss payable is 4,03,846. So this is the simple method of calculating the losses. Means the loss will be paid for the indemnity period or the interruption period, whichever is lower. Compulsory access would be for 7 days. And nothing else is deducted. This is the actual method of settling the claims. Now, there could be a typical situation. If the customer is having fire policy with other insurer, can we sell a FRP policy to prospect? No company will be ready for it. What if a company is giving the FLOP policy? They'll ask for the fire policy from the other insurance company. Because the admissibility of the claim depends upon the admissibility of claim under the fire policy. What details are required to quote? Fire policy detail, gross profit, indemnity period, claim history, add-on covers are required. These are the basic things. Premium depends upon the gross profit, occupancy, required add-on covers and indemnity period. So sum insured means anticipatory gross profit. This is all about the FLOP policy, simple policy. You can sell it individually, you can sell it in the package policy, you can sell it in the IR policy as inbuilt section. Easily available in 4 different forms. Any questions, any doubts, or should we go for the test paper? Everything is clear with all of you?